Okay, get ready, because today we are diving into a resume that I can only describe as, well, a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's not your average LinkedIn profile, that's for sure.
Cristina Imre, everybody. Buckle up.
Seriously, this is gonna be wild.
Just the range, right?
Yeah.
We're talking tech, we're talking coaching, NLP, there's even a Herbalife chapter in there.
And it's all presented chronologically, which makes it even more fascinating.
Like she's saying, follow my journey, see if you can keep up. Which, frankly, is a challenge.
But that's what we're here for, to try to find that through line, the common thread that ties it all together.
And there is one, right?
Hmm.
Even with all this variety, ChatGPT calls her the people reader, like Sherlock Holmes,
Yeah.
for, professional development.
No, BS Coach was another one,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So clearly, there's something about understanding people, motivations, potential, that seems to run through all of it.
And you see that reflected in how she describes herself, too. The whole good ancestor idea, ethical leadership, aligning with those big sustainable development goals. That's not just corporate jargon, it speaks to a deeper awareness.
It's interesting you say that because the words that jumped out at me were visionary, impact, constantly, empathy, almost like she's been building this image intentionally.
Which is where that early Blue Iris stuff gets really interesting.
Oh yeah, the early 2000s Romania, we have to unpack that.
Because that's esotericism, right? That's delving into some pretty deep, unconventional stuff, and way before it was trendy to blend that with business.
So is that the key to her approach now? Combining that unconventional thinking with this drive for, like you said, ethical leadership and impact.
It's definitely a possibility. And it speaks to the broader theme here, which is not being afraid to connect seemingly disparate fields.
Because she goes from esotericism straight into the fast-paced world of tech, founding companies, leading teams, diving headfirst into CRM software.
And all the while positioning herself as this strategic thinker, someone who solves problems and helps others succeed. You even see it in the language she uses early on. Secret weapon, that mindset mastery masterclass. Even back then, she understood how to frame her expertise.
She's like a proto-fractional executive before it was even a thing.
Exactly.
Speaking of, can you explain exactly what a fractional executive is for our listeners who might not be familiar?
Sure, it's basically a highly specialized expert who works with multiple companies on a part-time basis or on specific projects.
Okay, so someone with a very specific skill set.
Exactly, and it shows how much the business world has changed. Companies need specialized help, but they might not need someone full-time.
Which makes it even more impressive that Cristina was juggling multiple fractional roles while also running her own coaching business. Talk about a multitasker.
It takes incredible adaptability, strategic thinking, and, let's be honest, stamina to manage all of that.
And that's where her ability to read people probably comes into play again, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. You need to be able to size up a situation quickly, understand the dynamics, and tailor your approach accordingly.
Fascinating to see how that one skill seems to connect so much of her success. But we're just scratching the surface here. More to unpack when we come back. And we are back, still trying to wrap our heads around the career of Cristina Imre. Before the break, we were talking about how she was basically doing the work of 3 people at once.
And don't forget, this is all happening as the world of work is changing drastically. Remote work, the rise of tech, this huge focus on ethical leadership, she's navigating it all.
It's like she can see around corners, But it's not enough to just be in the right place at the right time. She has the skills to back it up.
Exactly, and that's where her, shall we say, eclectic background really shines. Every experience from those early days with Blue Iris to the more recent tech stuff, it all becomes a tool in her kit.
Ooh, I like that. Like she's building her own custom tool set, one weird job at a time.
And it all works together to make her a more well-rounded, adaptable leader.
Speaking of Blue Iris, I'm still stuck on that. Can we go back to that for a second? What exactly is esotericism for people who might not know?
It's hard to define, but it often deals with, hidden meanings and deeper truths. It's about looking beyond the surface level.
Okay, so how does that translate into, business skills?
Well, think about it. Esotericism often emphasizes intuition, empathy, seeing the connections between things. Those are all pretty valuable in the business world.
Especially when you're dealing with people, which, let's be real, can be the most challenging part of any job.
Absolutely. And Cristina clearly gets that. Her whole approach, from her coaching to her focus on ethical leadership, it all comes back to understanding people and creating a positive environment.
And that leads us to her latest venture, the Tech Leadership Lab, which she founded just this year. It feels like everything she's done has led up to this.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like she's taking all these seemingly disparate experiences and bringing them together.
And the language she uses to describe it is interesting, too. She calls herself a good ancestor.
Right. Thinking about the long game and emphasizing sustainability, the sustainable development goals, those are core to her message.
It's a long way from Herbalife, that's for sure.
It really shows how much she's evolved, but even back then, those core values were there. The focus on people, empowering others, making a real difference.
It's like she's on a mission to figure out not just how to be successful in business, but how to live a meaningful life.
And with the Tech Leadership Lab, it seems like she's found her way to do both. But what does this all mean for her legacy? And what can we, even with our completely different career paths, learn from all of this? We'll dig into that when we come back.
And we are back for one last look at the whirlwind that is Cristina Imre's resume. I have to say, I'm feeling a little exhausted just from hearing about all of that.
Yeah, she's definitely packed a lot into one career. But as we wrap up, the question is, what can we learn from all of this? And I don't just mean like, should I add esotericism to my LinkedIn?
Right, because let's be real, most of us aren't going to make that kind of career pivot.
Yeah.
But there are definitely some universal takeaways here.
Absolutely. For me, it's about not being afraid to embrace those seemingly random experiences. Cristina didn't follow a straight line, but she was able to connect the dots and create something unique.
It's like she collected all these different puzzle pieces from different boxes, and somehow she made them fit together.
Exactly. And that's something we can all do no matter what field we're in. Be open to new things, keep learning, and trust that it all adds up to something, even if it doesn't make sense right away.
Be a collector of experiences, not just job titles.
I love that. And the other big takeaway, for me at least, is that sense of purpose. Cristina's always been driven by a desire to make a difference, whether it was advocating for ethical business back in the day or launching the Tech Leadership Lab now.
Yeah, and that really shines through, especially in an industry that sometimes feels, I don't know, a little soulless.
Definitely. She's proving that you can be successful and still be a good person, and that you can use technology for good.
And she's not just talking about it, she's actually doing it. Embracing those sustainable development goals, really putting her money where her mouth is.
Which is a good reminder for all of us. Our choices have an impact, even the small ones.
So, as we say goodbye to Cristina Imre's resume, which honestly I might need to print out and frame just to admire.
It's a work of art.
What do you hope our listeners take away from this deep dive?
I hope they feel inspired, first and foremost, that they start looking at their own careers, their own lives with a fresh perspective, that they're not afraid to try new things, to embrace the unconventional, and maybe, just maybe, they'll be the ones inspiring us on a future episode.
Because that's what it's all about.
Right.
Pushing boundaries, challenging assumptions, and reminding ourselves that there's always more to learn and explore. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.